Hello, everybody. Come on in, take a seat. We're continuing with our Dan Markel series. We're on episode 12, and I decided to go live tonight with it. Hello, Ginger Girl. Good to see you. Hope everybody else is doing all right. Wait kind of a minute for hearing sirens outside. Weird. I hope everybody is doing good tonight. So wait for a few minutes and I see there's no real news yet on Sebastian Rogers. I've been watching, guys. Hello, Nutter. Good to see you. Welcome in. Yeah, I've been watching. Watching a lot of Hong's posts in X. I have a hard time. I keep wanting to say Twitter, right? But in X, he's been posting quite a bit of stuff. Brenda Joe, hello. I wasn't sure if you were going to be here. No, it's not us. We live on the main highway in town, so a lot of ambulance, police cars that go by here. So, and they have a tendency to stop people right by our house. So we're always seeing lights flashing and all kinds of stuff. But so, hello, Justice Jane. How are you today? Everybody's doing good. So yes, today we are talking about the Dan Markel story. If you haven't heard about this story, I want to encourage you to go back and look at all the other episodes. We are on episode 12, but I always give kind of a breakdown of what happened first before I start everything. And this is Dan with his two little boys. He was born on October 9th, 1972. He was a Canadian-born attorney and a law professor. He wrote works on retribution and criminal law and sentencing, and he focused on the role of punishment in the criminal justice system. He earned a JD degree from Harvard University in 2001, and he was working as a professor at the Florida State University in 2014 when he lost his life. He was his life was taken in Tallahassee, Florida in 2014 in a red room for hire. If you don't know what red room is, it's an unaliving for hire, motivated by child custody issues following his divorce from Wendi Adelson. Wendi was a clinical law professor also at the Florida State University at that time. And this is a picture of Wendi. And they had their two boys together, right? Okay. There are pictures out there of their boys. I choose not to show anything with their faces because this isn't about the children, okay? Other than the fact that there were custody issues at the time of this tragedy. So there's quite the dispute between the two of them. They were both Jewish, and both Dan, I guess after marriage, got more devout with his faith, right? And down to what the boys ate and, things like that. And Wendi didn't agree with him. So there was issues there. Okay. 4 individuals have been convicted in this case so far. This case isn't over with. I like to call this the case that just keeps on giving. Charlie Adelson, Wendy's brother and Dan's former brother-in-law, was convicted of first-degree red rum, conspiracy to commit red rum, and solicitation of red rum, and sentenced to life in prison plus an additional 30 years each for the conspiracy and solicitation convictions. Okay, this was Charlie. This is Wendy's brother, Charlie. These three were the three that Charlie hired, okay, to commit this tragedy. Sigfredo Garcia, the one on the far right, was found guilty of first-degree red rum and conspiracy to commit red rum and sentenced to life in prison. After a mistrial in her original trial, Catherine McBanawa, in the middle, was found guilty of first-degree red rum, conspiracy to commit red rum, and solicitation of red rum in a retrial, and sentenced to life in prison plus 2 consecutive 30-year sentences. Luis Rivera, on the far left, pled guilty to second-degree red rum and was sentenced to 19 years in prison. Now, Luis is the one who told everything he knew. He's the reason why these were, they all were convicted. So he got the lesser sentence. After these three were tried, then Charlie was tried and found convicted. A couple days after Charlie was convicted, Donna Adelson, who is Charlie and Wendy's mother and Dan's former mother-in-law, was arrested. She was arrested at the Miami International Airport on a warrant from Leon County. She was flying to Vietnam, which is a country that has no extradition treaty with the United States. So they caught her just in time. Isn't that coincidence? She is charged with first-degree red rum, conspiracy to commit red rum, and solicitation of red rum. Her trial was originally scheduled to start in September. It's going to be this year, June, something like that, August. I don't know for sure. Neither Dan's ex-wife, Wendi, nor Wendi Adelson's father, Harvey, have been charged, but both have been named by prosecutors as conspirators in this tragedy. Okay? So, it's a family affair, guys. We are going to listen to Wendy's testimony in Charlie's trial. And we've been watching it because I want everybody to watch her and glean for yourselves whether you think she's going to be the next one charged, right? I mean, first we had Sigfredo Garcia and Catherine McBanawa. These two were, well, they had babies together. But Catherine McBanawa had been dating Charlie. And Charlie had asked her if she knew of anybody who could, red rum somebody. And she said yes. So she wasn't with her baby daddy at the time, but she asked him about it, and then he got Luis Rivera. So you had those three were convicted first. Then you had Charlie. A couple days after Charlie's conviction, Donna was arrested trying to flee with her husband to Vietnam. Okay? Quite interesting so far. Oh, his grave is honored there in Canada? That's sad. That's so sad. Hello, Canine. Good to see you. Yes. And It is amazing. There are those people who believe Wendi is absolutely guilty or absolutely innocent, that she had nothing to do with this. I find it very difficult to believe, especially when the police have already said she's a co-conspirator. But I find it very difficult to believe that she didn't know about this, but that's what she's claiming, guys. So we're going to listen to the rest of her testimony today in the trial. For more of it, go back to the episodes that I believe 10 and 11 are her testimonies. It was quite long, but yeah, let me know in the comments, what your thoughts are. Oh, and I just want to put a side note in here, guys. Because of everything that's been going on in the Sebastian Rogers trial, or the case, not trial, case, it seems as though there are those people who want to come in and, I don't know, look at chat and, accuse people of things. So I want you guys to be very careful, because I would never want to see any of my family here, you know, be in any kind of legal trouble. So make sure you're using, in my opinion, and allegedly, and honestly, no threats toward anyone. But I know that nobody in my chat would ever do that anyway, right? So as long as you're not threatening somebody, you should be just fine to put your opinion, as long as you're putting IMO or allegedly behind it or in front of it, whichever way you want to. It's just better to be safe than sorry, because we're all responsible for our own thoughts and opinions, and what we say. But I just want to make sure that nobody ever has a problem, because I want you to feel free to be able to say what you want to say, right? That whole case has caused so many problems. I can't even, yeah. Well, we won't go there. Anyway, let me pull up, present my screen, and we will continue on with Wendi.
I want to talk a little bit about Jeff Lacoste. You first met Mr. Lacoste in the fall of 2013.
Yes,
It was casual at first.
it was.
You were dating other people as well.
I was.
It got more serious around March of 2014.
That's right.
Fair to say he was in love with you?
I don't really remember. I don't think I could say, but it was more serious.
Okay. You weren't so sure about him. Is that fair to say?
I think my feelings developed over time.
And then they undeveloped?
And then they undeveloped.
You were very different people from very different backgrounds, right?
Yeah.
He didn't spend much time with your parents, right?
I think maybe he met them once.
He wanted to meet them more than once, right? He didn't like that he didn't get to see them more times.
I think he wanted to be more integrated into my life.
Jeff Lacoste met Charlie Adelson one time in March of 2014, right?
That's right.
He accompanied you on a trip with law students, right?
I used to run an alternative spring break, and he came with me.
And you decided to visit come down to South Florida for a day or two, right?
That's right.
And you had dinner at a place called Yardbird, right?
That's right.
Are you aware that that happened on March 11th, 2014?
No, I don't remember the date, just that it was during the spring break.
Fair enough.
Keep in mind, this trial was 9 to 10 years after the tragedy for Dan. So I understand her not remembering dates or details of things, right? But I do want to know what your guys' thoughts are. Whether you think she's being honest, just by judging by her behavior, the way she's answering. Also keep in mind that she is a lawyer. So she's very familiar with the court process. Okay.
You remember sitting outside on the patio?
I do.
And it was you and Mr. Lacoste and Charlie and a woman named Catherine Magbanawa. Do you recall that?
That's right.
Who was Charlie's girlfriend at the time.
Yes.
Are you aware that Sigfredo Garcia was watching you at that dinner?
No.
Are you aware that he was contemplating running your brother over with his car at that dinner?
No.
Wow.
After dinner, you and Jeff Lacoste stayed at Charlie's house, right?
We did.
Miss Magbanawa wasn't there, right?
I don't remember her being there.
It was just the three of you.
I think so.
And you left the next morning.
We did.
Now, you and Mr. Lacoste started having issues around May of 2014. Is that fair to say?
That sounds about right.
You started to become nervous around him?
I don't really remember if I was nervous around him, but I started thinking it wasn't the right relationship.
He started accusing you of being unfaithful, right?
He did.
He accused you of having an affair with someone that you had previously dated?
He did.
Excuse me. You told him that you didn't. You denied it.
That's right.
And he didn't believe you.
He did not.
And before this individual that you used to date, you had coffee with at a place called All Saints in Tallahassee, right?
I did.
And Mr. Lacoste saw you having coffee with this individual, right?
He did.
And that caused a confrontation. Is that fair to say?
He flew into a rage.
Subsequently, he went through your phone and planner, right?
He did.
And this is around May, June of 2014.
That sounds right.
And you and Mr. Lacoste went to Gainesville for a weekend for his work at some point around this time frame.
Yes.
And that Saturday night, June 28th, he basically exploded at you.
He did.
He yelled at you for hours.
He did.
He accused you of having affairs with multiple people.
He did.
You were very upset, to say the least.
I was devastated. Yeah.
Sounded like he was
You were scheduled to
jealous
leave for South Florida, I believe it was on June 30th or June 29th to celebrate your dad's 70th birthday, right?
That sounds right.
And Mr. Lacoste wasn't invited.
No.
You went down to South Florida on June 30th, and you and the boys stayed with your parents, right?
We did.
You had the boys with you the whole time.
Yes.
Dan Markell didn't have the boys at that point in time. The boys were with you.
Yes.
And Charlie knew that, right?
Yes, he was with us.
Your mom planned a big party for the birthday.
She did.
Now, I think when Miss Kappelman asked you if the birthday fell on a Saturday, you weren't sure.
I remembered it being on his actual birthday, which I thought was a Saturday, but I don't remember the calendar from 2014.
May I approach Your Honor with Defendant's Exhibit 25? Ms. Adelson, does this refresh your recollection that July 5th, 2014 was on a Saturday
Yes.
and that the party was at 7:30 p.m. or
Yes.
thereabouts?
Mhm.
Put that aside. Now, when you got back to Tallahassee, you saw Mr. Lacoste on July 13th.
That sounds right.
And when you saw him, it was not a good meeting. Is that fair to say? It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You saw him the next day at a yoga studio,
I went to yoga and he wanted to come.
and it was awkward
It was.
and kind of tense.
It was.
And he asked to see you again later that week,
He did.
and you didn't want to.
I did not.
And when you got home that night, you sent him an email asking him not to contact you for at least 7 days, that you wanted to think things over. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
You never saw him again, right?
No?
Are you now aware that there was a first attempt on your ex-husband's life on June 4th and June 4th, 5th of 2014?
Yes.
When you lived with Professor Markel on Trescott, was your address publicly listed?
I believe so.
Can I have one moment, Your Honor?
Go ahead.
Trying to fast forward it, guys. So
Members of the jury, when the parties agree that certain facts are true, that is called a stipulation of fact, you must accept stipulated facts as having been proven. However, the significance of these facts, as with all facts, is for you to decide. In this case, the stipulated facts that you must accept are true are: the Markel children were enrolled at Creative Preschool located in Tallahassee. During the week of July 14th, 2024, their drop-off pickup schedule was as follows. Monday, July 14th, 2024, dropped off at 8:55 a.m. by Dan Markel, picked up at 5 p.m. by Dan Markel. Tuesday, July 15th, 2014, dropped off at 8:25 a.m. by Dan Markel, picked up at 4:50 p.m. by Dan Markel. Wednesday, July 16th, 2014, dropped off at 9 a.m. by Dan Markel, picked up at 4:30 p.m. by Wendi Adelson. Thursday, July 17th, 2014, dropped off at 8:30 a.m. by Wendi Adelson, picked up at 4:45 p.m. by Dan Markell. Friday, July 18th, 2014, dropped off at 8:50 a.m. by Dan Markell.
Thank you.
And the 18th was the day that Dan was red-rummed.
Your Honor. So I want to first focus your attention on the July 17, 2014 schedule. On July 17, 2014, as Your Honor just recited, do you recall dropping the kids off at school at 8:30 in the morning?
Yes.
And Professor Markell picked them up at 4:45 p.m. on that day, thereabouts.
Which I just heard, but I wouldn't have known what time.
You didn't pick them up that
I
day.
didn't. No, it wasn't my day.
So it would be impossible. The person would be wrong if they said that they saw you and the kids by Professor Markell's house in the afternoon or morning of July 17, 2014, correct?
It would be some other woman and some other kids.
You spoke to your mom probably close to daily, right?
Yeah.
During this time period. She would know when you had the kids and didn't have the kids, right?
Probably.
Now, I want to go back to something briefly that we talked about yesterday before we stopped. You knew that Professor Markell posted his travel plans on Facebook and on his prof's blog, right?
Yes.
He would talk about places and conferences that he was speaking at, right?
You would.
Are you aware that on the weekend of the 20th, he was supposed to speak at a conference in New Jersey, and he posted it on Prof's blog as well as on Facebook?
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about Best Buy. May I approach?
So the prosecution had been trying to point out that Wendi would have been the one to have let Charlie know that Dan was home on this day, that he wasn't going to be home on the 19th because he was going to New York and then New Jersey, etc. But the defense is now trying to say that, oh, he put this stuff on, Facebook. He publicly spoke about this. So, Wendi didn't tell everybody. But I don't know, guys. I don't know, right? We don't know what she said or what kind of. So far in her testimony, I'm not seeing that they could prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that she, provided this information to them, because there's been something else, So, I guess as what we're going to find out, I think, in Donna's trial, what more there is against Wendi, right? We could even have Wendi's dad be arrested. I mean, there's this case. And then I think that would be it. I don't think anybody else had a part. Her other brother didn't live in the area, and he had kind of pulled away from the family. So we can kind of rule him out of the equation. Keep in mind that Wendi and Dan's children now, her boys, are 14 and 15 years old. And you've got to wonder what they know about all this. You know, kids that age are on social media, right? And you've got to wonder, right? You got to wonder what they know, what they've been told. They've seen their uncle go to prison. Their grandma is in jail right now, ready to stand trial. I mean, you've got to wonder what they're thinking at this point. And from everything that we heard, Dan was an incredibly loving father. He loved his boys to no end, I guess. So remember that, you know, their dad was taken away from them when they were very young. All right, let's continue on.
Your Honor,
You may.
I'm showing you what's marked for identification purposes only as Defense Exhibit 29 and 30. Looking at Defense Exhibit 29, does that refresh your recollection that the warranty was under your father's name for
Yes.
that TV?
Mm-hmm.
A warranty with the Geek Squad?
Yes.
Now, before you look at Exhibit 20, do you recall that your mother scheduled the appointment for the TV to be fixed with this Geek Squad?
I remembered that I scheduled it, but it looks like she scheduled it and gave me the number to call in case I needed to reschedule it.
And in fact, she emailed you on July 11th and told you if you can't keep the appointment on the 18th, call this number to reschedule it, right?
Yes.
You can put that aside.
So this whole thing with the TV repair, it sounds kind of funny, doesn't it? But the prosecution put out there that they felt that the whole scenario with the TV repair was all code for what time, what day that Dan was going to be red-rummed. I guess, we'll never really know for sure. I mean, it's he said, she said kind of situation, right? But that is what the prosecution alleges. And this is the TV that allegedly Charlie bought Wendi as a divorce present. And he made the joke that it was cheaper to buy a TV than to hire a hitman.
I want to talk a little bit more about July 18th. Do you recall leaving your house that day on Aqua Ridge Ray around 12:30 in the afternoon?
I do.
And you were going to meet a friend for lunch at a place called Mosaic.
Yes.
But you had to pick up a bottle of, I don't know if it's bourbon or whiskey. I don't even know if they're the same things, but Bullet whiskey.
It was bourbon.
Okay. It was for your friend's wedding shower that night?
So, Sylvester, it depends on what you're asking. This trial where she's testifying was actually a year ago. And, but the actual tragedy happened on July 18th of 2014. So 10 years ago. So I hope I answered your question.
They were having us stock the bar party, so they asked for specific kinds of alcohol to stock the bar.
And I'm showing you what's marked as Defense Exhibit 32. Is this the invitation that you received?
Yes, that's it.
Judge, I would move Defense Exhibit 32 into evidence at this point in time.
No objection.
Hearsay, Your Honor.
Exception.
State of mind.
You can provide me with the exhibit.
I'm going to show right-hand corner. I'm going to show the right-hand corner of the exhibit.
The objection is sustained. She may testify as to amendment.
Do you recall on the left-hand corner of the invitation, it says, help the bride and groom stock the bar for their wedding and bring a bottle of Bullet bourbon? Do you recall that?
Yes.
You can put that aside. Now, you decided to go to ABC Liquors on Bedden Road to look for the bourbon, right?
I did.
You're not a big drinker, is that fair to say?
That is fair to say.
You went to that store because you were familiar with it?
I'd seen it close to my house, so
Close to your old house?
close to my old house.
There could have been liquor stores that were closer to your current house?
Sure.
Now, when you drove to ABC Liquor, you tried to go through Trescott. Is
I
that
did.
fair to say?
It was blocked.
There are other ways to go to ABC Liquor, right? You could have gone down other roads.
I don't have the best sense of direction, so when I find a route, I just kind of keep using that route. I don't look for something else.
Okay.
What do you think, guys? Do you believe her? She purposely drove down Trescott to go to this store when there were first of all, there were other stores that were closer to where she lived because she didn't live on Trescott anymore. That's where Dan lived. And July 18th was the same day that the Red Room was supposed to happen. Okay. But it was blocked. She couldn't get down there, so she had to make a U-turn. And she didn't think anything of it, that it was blocked. She'll tell us that. Or she did already. I don't know if she'll tell the defense that, but K9. Yeah. Nutter. Yeah. I think so too. I mean, that's a little off the wall, don't you think? Charlie looks a bit here's the other thing. I don't think Charlie and Wendi look alike at all. For being brother and sister. I mean, yeah, They don't look alike to me at all. It's weird. It's weird. But yeah, this is the part where I don't believe her. You know, I don't think she can explain this away. I don't think it looks good with the jury because you're not good with direction. Well, excuse me, we all have GPS now on our phones, do we not? I think she was checking out the crime scene. Someone called Catherine before Sigfredo did. Yeah. Yep. I agree. All right. So let's continue on.
You got to Mosaic at around 1 p.m.
That sounds right.
and your lunch was interrupted by investigator Isom, who told you that something had happened.
That's right.
You went with him voluntarily to
I
speak
did.
with him? You let police search your car?
Yes.
You were interviewed with the investigator from approximately 2:45 p.m. until 7:50 p.m.
Yes.
He told you that your ex-husband had been shot and was unlikely to survive, right?
Yes.
You were in shock.
Yes.
You were pretty open with police, telling them a lot of things, right?
They kept telling me they needed my help, and so I kept trying to help.
Now, you remember on direct, Ms. Kappelman asked you about this interview.
Yes.
And she asked you about all the people you mentioned during the interview, including Charlie.
Yes.
And you said I was just wheeling off names, right?
Yes.
In fact, isn't the first person in the interview that you mentioned was yourself?
Yes.
You said that you would understand if you were viewed as the prime suspect, right?
Yes.
Before you mentioned anyone else, you mentioned yourself.
Okay. So the guy over his left shoulder, Ginger, is that Dan's father? I'm just curious. I know you said he was there. She is flatlined. Donna's arrest was epic, yeah. So here is my thoughts on the interview. And if you're not familiar with this case, I encourage you go back and watch the interview. She actually, oh, that's her lawyer. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I can imagine it's been a nightmare. So is that the man in the gray hair? Is that his dad? I'm curious because I don't know. But my thoughts with the beige sweater. Okay, gotcha. And so the woman to his left is his mom. Okay. Well, that helps me know a little bit. So she brings up her brother, and she brings up the stupid joke that Charlie made to the police in the interview when she hears that her husband has been SHOT, right? And she says, well, he made this bad joke, and it was a stupid joke, but he wouldn't do anything like this. And that was a joke about the TV and hiring the hitman. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So if it were me in a police interview if my brother, if my brother had said something like that, I don't think I'd bring it up. And so my thought is she very slyly threw her brother under the bus. What other way can you look at it? Oh, but he wouldn't do something like that. But he did. I mean, he said it was a bad joke, and yes, he repeated the joke. If you really didn't think that your brother would ever hurt someone, let alone your ex-husband, would you bring up a bad joke to the police at that time, at that moment in time? I don't think so. I don't think I would. I agree. She's a lawyer, remember? And I'm not saying all lawyers are bad, but she knows the system. And I think in that interview, she tried to make herself, I know that that I'd be looked at as the most likely suspect. I'm the ex-wife. I know that. I know that. We've been fighting over the kids, and I know that. She did she? Did he have a life insurance policy that she ended up getting? I'm curious. I never heard about that. But I don't know how someone can watch this and watch her and not think that she didn't know what she was doing. She knew exactly what she was doing. And did Charlie really think that she's this little innocent person that everybody needs to protect? I mean, her family are suffering.
Yes,
You told them about the motion to relocate.
I did.
You told them about the fight you had with Professor Markel that very morning about some swimming for the boys.
Yes.
You were spitting out a lot of ideas.
I was.
And you agreed to let the police search your phone.
Yes.
You agreed to let the police search your car.
Yes.
That's where they found that picture that I wasn't able to admit of the invitation of the bowl of bourbon, right?
Yeah.
You agreed to be fingerprinted.
Yes.
You agreed to be checked for gunshot residue.
Yes.
You gave them your computer to be searched.
I did.
Because she knew
Towards the end
there was
of your
nothing on
interview,
there.
You asked the police officer if you could call your parents, right?
I did.
And the police allowed you to do that.
Yes.
And you called your mother's cell phone sometime around 7:04 p.m.
Yes.
And you spoke to your mom. I don't know if you remember, but you remember your dad being in the shower because they were going out to dinner.
I don't remember.
Your mom didn't answer actually the first call, and you called back a couple minutes later and she answered. Do you recall that?
I don't.
And when you called your mom, she was
So she's looking at this man right here, and she's answering questions, and she's got to see Dan's parents right behind him. And look at how calm, cool, and collected she is. Right? I was just sitting here as I was watching that and thinking, his parents are right there. And that doesn't bother you? Not only, guys, is she sitting there, and I understand this is 9 years later at this point. But still, right? A year after Dan was unalived, she changed her boys' names to Adelson, dropped the Markel name altogether. And one of the boys had a middle name of, I believe it was Dan Markel's grandfather, and she dropped that too. So she got the house that Dan lived in because the divorce wasn't finalized yet. She kept the priceless heirloom ring. She kept over $500,000 that she took from the joint account. Plus, she might have gotten $5,000 per month per child from Dan's insurance. She didn't need to work anymore, did she? Wow. And she probably didn't even pay for his funeral. His parents probably did.
Surprised.
Yes.
And you asked her to call Charlie and tell him what happened, right?
Yes.
You didn't speak with Charlie that day, right?
I don't think so.
On July 19th, the next day, you spoke to Charlie at 10:50 in the morning. You won't know the exact time, but do you recall speaking with him in the morning?
I honestly don't.
Do you recall letting him know that Professor Markel had passed away in the early morning?
I don't remember the conversation.
Isn't that
When your
convenient?
parents came directly to Tallahassee, correct?
They did.
They stopped in Orlando and they got there on the morning of the 19th, right?
Yes.
And when they got there, they were scared and frantic, right?
Yes.
Your dad didn't sleep. He couldn't get police protection, so he planted his chair in the front of your window to make sure that no one was going to come to your house and shoot it up, right?
Correct.
Now,
She
you
knew
all
nobody was
attended a
coming
memorial
after
service
her.
on the 20th, right?
Yes.
And you arranged for the Markels to see the boys after the memorial service, right?
They all came over my house.
And you left Tallahassee, correct?
Not on the 20th. No.
On the 21st.
Yes.
And when you left Tallahassee on the 21st, did you bring all your belongings?
I brought some swimsuits for the boys and some pajamas, and I thought we'd be back in a day or two.
And when you left, you were not yourself.
I was a mess.
You got to South Florida and you realized that you could not take care of the boys alone at this point in time.
I hadn't slept in days and I was terrified.
Terrified of being caught?
To get a little more specific, you wouldn't leave the house.
No,
And you would hardly eat.
I wasn't eating, no.
And ultimately, you decided not to come back to Tallahassee.
I mean, I made that decision much later, but
And you had a friend who you grew up with, I think last name Keener, go back and get more stuff at your house, right?
he did.
You have one more moment, Your Honor.
Is she looking at Charlie and smiling?
Now, it's been said in this courtroom that you have tried to erase Professor Markel's memory from your boy's life. Is that true?
It's not true.
For the first 2 years after the murder, did you limit Professor Markel's family from seeing the boys?
Absolutely not.
In fact, they had complete access to the boys, right?
100%.
They made dinners with the boys.
I cooked dinner for them, yes, every time they visited.
There were sleepovers and playdates.
That's right.
There was no animosity at all, right?
No.
And then in October of 2016, things changed, right?
Yes.
A letter was released where there was a suggestion that Professor Markel's mom was talking to the state about arranging custody for the boys in case you got arrested.
Yes.
And you saw that as a betrayal.
Well, the custody was foster care, so yes.
You saw that as her thinking that you killed her son.
Yes.
And as a result of that, rightly or wrongly, you decided to limit their access.
I was afraid they were going to put my children in foster care.
Do your children know anything about their father?
They know a lot about their dad.
Do they have a picture of him in their bedroom?
Each boy has a picture of them and their dad over their bed that we say good morning to and good night to every day.
Did you benefit?
Okay. They're 14 and 15 now. Doubtful. How many 14 and 15-year-olds, guys, are going to look at a picture above their bed and say, "Morning, Dad," especially when their dad has been gone for 10 years? I mean, let's be realistic. Maybe when they were little, she did that. I'll give her that. Right? She moves to South Florida, closer to the people who hurt Dan. Oh, yeah. It's safer for her. She wasn't in any danger. Her family wasn't going to hurt her. I mean, I don't believe that those boys say good morning to their dad. The picture on the wall is the picture there. Maybe so. But I don't think a 14, 15-year-old would look up and say good morning, Dad, every morning. I don't see that happening. I didn't have boys. If I'm wrong, guys, feel free to let me know if you think I'm wrong, but I don't see that happening. I don't. When they were 4 and 5, yes. But not when they're 14 and 15. I don't believe it.
Benefit from Professor Markel's death?
No.
Well, you got to live in South Florida.
It's not a benefit.
How are your boys doing?
We're doing very well. Thank you.
How has your job prospects been since this case hit the news?
Objection, relevance.
Sustained.
How are you doing?
Objection, relevance.
Sustained.
Has this affected your life negatively or positively?
Negatively.
Does Charlie love his nephews?
Very much.
Can I have one moment, Your Honor?
Yeah, you don't see it either? Yeah. And Ginger, you have a son. Nutter, you don't see it happening either. Yeah.
The long list of plans that you went over with Mr. Rashbaum that you were going to have in Tallahassee post murder date, none of those plans happened, right?
No,
Because you moved to South Florida, right?
because I felt unsafe to stay here. Yes.
And did you feel safe in South Florida?
No,
Did you buy a house in Tallahassee after the murder?
no, I did not.
Did you rent a house in Tallahassee after the murder?
No, I didn't live in Tallahassee after the murder.
Did the boys go to school that fall here in Tallahassee?
No, all our plans were broken.
And what was the purpose of those questions? Of course you didn't. You moved to South Florida. You didn't have plans in Tallahassee that got executed. Why were you asked about all those things?
I don't know why I was asked questions by the defense counsel.
The book event that you were asked about, did that event happen?
I didn't speak at the event, but the event still happened.
Have you had several events related to that book that have happened?
I have.
And what events were those?
Do you mean just in Tallahassee or do you mean in other places?
Everywhere.
I've spoken at various schools about human trafficking and about my book. I think there was one event that still happened in Tallahassee about a year later.
And is that the only book you've written, or have you written more than one book?
I've only written one book.
What was the book about?
The book was about human trafficking and about the vulnerabilities that lead to trafficking, the problems when it occurs, and basically how to recover from it after.
Where was the book set?
It was set in a fictional town,
What was the name of the fictional town?
Hiawassee Springs.
So Hiawassee. Is it located in the panhandle of Florida?
No, I used to see the name when I was driving from Tallahassee to Orlando, so it's somewhere in between.
And was the place modeled after Tallahassee?
It was definitely somewhere in Florida, but not supposed to be about Tallahassee, no.
Who was the central character in that book?
So there's three central characters. One was one of my clients, kind of a composite character from Eastern Europe. One was kind of a composite character of many clients I've represented from Latin America. And one was a public interest lawyer.
And was the public interest lawyer Lily?
Yes.
And is that the character that's sort of based after yourself?
No, really more based after a friend of mine.
And was Hiawassee, Florida, quote, just a small stop on the way back to what we had previously known as civilization? Is that a quote from your book?
That sounds like a quote from my book, yeah.
And who's the husband of Lily, the public interest lawyer?
You want his name in the book?
Yes.
I think it was Josh Stone.
All right. And what was Josh's employment?
Josh was an English professor.
I'm sorry, what was your answer?
Josh was an English professor.
A professor, where did he teach?
It's been a while. I wrote the book over 10 years ago. I don't remember what I named the university in the
North
story.
Florida State University,
That sounds right.
NFSU.
NFSU sounds right. Yeah.
All right. And in the book, does Lily lament, quote, we moved to this godforsaken place for Josh's career?
Yes, that sounds like a line Lily would say.
All right. When you looked at page 187 of the divorce document on cross, and I'll hand that back to you. is actually my copy.
Prosecutor is very acute.
Let me just turn back to 187.
She's bringing up correlations without even specifying what they are, but you know what she's doing, you can tell.
Do you see the quote that you read previously from that page?
I don't.
Okay. It had to do with, let's see if I can find it. That you were very unhappy in the marriage. I think it's the third paragraph there.
I see that line.
Okay, the wife has been very unhappy in the marriage and files her petition for dissolution of marriage in August 2012. The husband continues to characterize this as abandonment, and then it goes on to say that he had been disparaging you to some of the folks at the law school. Do you remember reading that?
I do.
Was that intended to be the place in this binder where you allege emotional abuse by your husband?
I mean, I think it's emotionally abusive to suggest somebody has mental health issues.
Okay. What is the Prof's blog? You were asked about that on Cross.
Yeah, it was a blog that Danny started with some of his colleagues to kind of promote community in the law professor world.
And who reads the Prof's?
Probably
Prof's blog?
other law professors and people interested in becoming law professors.
Who is on the Crim Prof listserv?
I don't know.
Were you
Probably.
on the listserv for that Prof's blog?
I may have been on the listserv at some point.
Do you remember seeing the post that you were shown on Cross?
I do.
And the post says something about Danny and I are planning to attend a conference that will begin Sunday, July 20th. Is there any other information on what you were shown about Dan's travel plans post-murder other than that?
I'm sorry. Can you please repeat the question?
The post says Danny and I guess it's another professor writing this thing. Danny and I are planning to attend a conference that will begin Sunday, July 20th. Is that the type of information that he would typically have on something like the Prof's blog or Facebook?
That sounds right.
Okay, but as far as the date he's leaving, the flight he's on, that kind of stuff, would that typically be on the Prof's blog?
He wouldn't put what flight number he was on, but he would almost always communicate when he was going on a trip.
Okay, so going to a conference that starts July 20th might be an example.
Flying to New York tomorrow would be an example,
Okay.
but
he didn't
not
put
a flight number.
But he didn't put flying to New York tomorrow on this occasion.
No.
You were referenced several times, not on direct examination by the state, but by your brother's attorney on Cross as a co-conspirator. Are you charged in this case?
No.
This isn't your trial, is it?
No.
Is your brother charged with conspiring with you to do a murder?
No.
Is he charged with conspiring with you to plan a murder?
No.
Is he charged with soliciting you to do a murder?
No.
Who is he charged with doing those things with?
I don't think anyone.
Have you had an opportunity to review his indictment in this case?
I have not.
Give you an opportunity to take a look at that document yourself. Who is your brother alleged to have done these crimes with?
Catherine D. Magbanua.
Were you on the wire in this case, Ms. Adelson?
No.
So when the bump happened, are you familiar with the event I'm referencing as the bump?
I am now.
When law enforcement approached your mother on the street and handed her a piece of paper?
Yes.
Okay. When that occurred, who did your mother call?
I don't know.
Not you, right?
Not me.
Okay. And once your brother found out about the bump, did he call you about it?
No.
Who did he call?
I don't know.
Well, you listened to the calls to authenticate the voices, didn't you?
Just to hear the voices, not to hear the content of the calls.
Okay. And the voices were your brother's voice, right?
But I listened to the calls just to hear who was on them, so I don't know what content they're referencing.
I heard your answer. My question to you now is your brother's voice was on the calls.
He was on some of the calls I listened to.
Your mother's voice was on the calls.
She was on some of the calls I listened to.
Did you have any secret meetings with your brother post bump that happened in South Florida?
No.
You were asked about Jeffrey Lacasse and the way that your relationship ended. What is OkCupid?
OkCupid is a dating website.
Were you on that dating website?
I was.
Were you on that dating website at the time that you were dating Mr. Lacasse?
No, I wasn't.
And were you speaking? So I guess if you weren't on it, you weren't speaking to multiple men from the website during the time you were dating Mr. Lacasse. And I'll remind you that you provided your phone in this case, and it was cell-brighted, downloaded.
Objection. Argument.
Approach.
Didn't you just say that you weren't on OkCupid at the time that you were dating Jeffrey Lacasse?
I don't know when we say I officially stopped dating Jeff Lacasse, but there's a chance that, I don't remember in 2014 whether I had gotten the app and started talking to people before we officially broke up.
Okay, so my point is there's a chance that he was right. You were being unfaithful, or at least talking to other people.
She
You had
was
a
just
reason
caught
to
in
be
a
jealous.
lie.
I think he had some serious jealousy issues that may or may not have been founded.
Yeah, I think we got from your testimony that you believe he had serious jealousy issues. My question to you is, did he have a reason to be?
No,
So he was wrong.
he was wrong in June when he accused me of being with multiple people that I wasn't with. Yes.
Okay. What was wrong with Dan's mother trying to make arrangements for the kids in the event of your arrest? Wasn't that a kind thing to do?
I don't think it's kind to put my children in foster care.
Wasn't the foster care intended only to cover the time frame that it would take for her to get on a plane and get here?
She never said that.
You thought she was just going to leave them in foster care?
I didn't know what to think. They have a mother. They don't need to be in foster care.
But they wouldn't have a mother in the event of your arrest, Ms. Adelson. Wasn't that the intention of the email?
I don't know what the intent of the email was. I was not going to be arrested for a crime I didn't commit.
She didn't know that though, did she?
I don't know what she knows or doesn't know. I can't speak to that.
Do Dan's parents know whether you committed this crime or not?
I don't know how to answer that question.
How would they? Particularly back at the time that she sent that email. It was fresh at that time, right?
I'm sorry, what was fresh?
All the events that were occurring, the arrests.
That was 2 years after Danny's murder. I don't know what she knew or didn't know. I know that my children don't belong in foster care.
Was it a specific foster care that she was requesting be called in the event that the children had no place to go and were going to be going into the custody of the state?
She did suggest a specific foster care agency,
A Jewish-run foster care agency.
a Jewish foster care.
Grant, we're talking about Mama Donna Adelson. And
Okay. So she got caught in a lie right there at the end, didn't she? So that's the thing I didn't know. Did she have immunity, Ginger? I've kind of looked for that and I haven't seen anything. And yes, Canine, this prosecutor, she is sharp as a tack. And so, I mean, I'm just learning about this as I'm going as well. So Dan's mom, they Danny's parents lived in Canada, correct? Okay. She was given immunity. Okay. Huh. Interesting. So, yeah, she did just tell a lie about the dating app, didn't she? She got caught. And I think that's what the prosecutor was wanting to do. Catch her in a lie. She, she's still going to have to testify in her mom's trial as well. Okay, so his parents lived in Canada. Okay. So I can understand why, if Wendi was arrested, that that Dan's mom was trying to, figure out something until she could get there, I guess. But the the thing that worries me is that, or that I think about, and I mean, it could still happen. They're 14 and 15, right? But once children are in foster care, as far as I'm aware, in the United States, I don't think it's that easy to get them out of it. This case was solved by video evidence and cell phone activity for the most part. Neighborhood was also huge. There's been a lot of sirens here tonight. My goodness. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but well, she didn't assert her Fifth Amendment when she was on the stand, did she? So that's interesting. Well, I can see she's very smart, Wendi is, right, she would only want but I don't think you can do that. I don't know. I don't know, you'd have to have some kind of special, I don't know, but if I were her, I'd be getting a lawyer to look into it. That's what I'd be saying, because I think once they're in the foster care system, then that's a little bit more difficult. But yeah, I don't know. Wow. This case is, I mean, it's amazing. The case that keeps on giving. Oh, her immunity only covered her on the stand, not during the depositions. Okay. Okay. But what if she lied on the stand? Right, she has a lawyer, but I'm talking about Dan's mom. Dan's mom should get a lawyer, because honestly, Wendi would have the right to give her children, and she may have already done so, but to make her other brother the legal guardian. Temporary, until the grandparents could pick them up. Yeah. But if Wendi had her other brother, which I understand they're estranged or whatever, but he may well be willing to take the children, right? The boys. I don't know, right? But I think there's some red tape between a foster care system in the United States and grandparents coming from Canada. I think there'd be quite a bit of red tape there, guys, more than what you might think. And it would it would be best for Dan's mom to seek a United States lawyer. That's what I would say. She's not off the hook if she lies. I believe it breaks the immunity. Yeah, I don't know. Depends on. I would think so. I mean, I would think so. What kind of immunity was she given, though? It's like Jennifer Soto, right? I agree, K9. It was an excuse to disconnect from his parents. Yeah. Yeah. And it sounds like she was in control of the visitations before that, because she was saying how she made dinner for them all. So it sounded very supervised, didn't it? Dan made his sister the executor of his estate, and she controls the monthly payments to the children. Huh. Interesting. And does his sister live in Canada? Curious. There's so much more to this, you guys. I'm learning. Learning quite a bit here tonight. I thought I was beginning to know quite a bit about this case, and I'm learning even more. Gotcha. So she lives in Canada too. Interesting. Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, worst case scenario, Wendi could turn her children over to her brother Robert, and she would have every right to do that. And that would negate anything that Markel family tried to do, right? Especially with them being from out of the country. If her brother wants the boys. Now remember, he has pulled away from the family, so we don't know what his thoughts are. And I don't blame him for. I mean, look at this family, guys. You have Charlie, convicted, life in prison. Wendi, who obviously knew what was going on. She had to have, no doubt in my mind. Right? No doubt in my mind. You're obsessed with it? Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. I get it. I get it. If I had heard about it, I would have been right there on it. We will watch Donna Adelson's. I mean, we'll follow Donna Adelson's trial for sure. I'm glad you put IMO K9. Ginger got rung through the coals in comments on our videos for saying that that Wendi was the mastermind behind the whole thing. It was crazy. It was crazy. We took care of her though. There are people out there who truly believe Wendy's innocent, and they have a right to their opinion, but I don't believe it, not for a second. I don't believe there's no way she couldn't have known. Because you can tell with her being up there on the stand, she was not stupid. Show Donna's arrest video. Let's see if I can find it. Okay, I found it. So let's. Okay.
And it's saying, do you have anything else to want to eat you? Whatever. Yeah, take it off. And the rings, take everything. And give it to your husband. Because once you arrive at County Yale, they're gonna make you remove all that. You got your passport ready? They come here. Please.
They're coming in minutes. No problem. You can have. No problem.
I'm sorry, remove your earrings.
No. 1 minute.
Taking her jewelry off of her?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, go back out. You're making a mistake. It's not a mistake. It's two mistakes. Can you take a look, please? Please. Yeah. I will. Yes.
If there's anything else on her person that she wants to.
All right.
Do you have her driver's license by any chance?
I'm sorry?
Her driver's license?
It's in my. Yeah. Yeah.
Have a good.
All those people there.
She needs water. She needs water.
This guy right here. Sound is really bad on this video.
There's a bag of medication in here.
She can take my.
No, I know, I'm just trying to find out.
Don't give her
Like one or
medication.
two. Yeah, one or two that you maybe.
Donna is very
Do you need
tiny.
anything else from her?
Can I ask
So
you
we're good to go?
something? Can someone just get my husband outside?
So I'll get out. That's nothing new, it's just a video,
I'll
I'll be okay, wait.
Give me one moment, please. Hold the body. Give me one moment.
Excuse me, excuse me.
How embarrassing. Wow. Parade her through the whole airport.
Roll out or?
They make Harvey stay back. Look at that. All those people seeing her being taken out of the airport in handcuffs. Oh, you're right. Longest walk in. You're that evil canine.
You have your case number? No. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm going to 06 from now, from here, and then I'll get the case number for the video.
Oh, goodness, how far was the door? That's worse than the Chicago airport. Big day for him, huh? They're walking pretty fast for an old lady, too. You think about it?
You want to use the other? No, I'll be right. That won't work. The yellow one, the other side. I'll hold it. Stay calm. All right, stay calm.
More hallways. My goodness. Glad to help. Oh, we finally made the door. And here we go. See ya, Donna. Wow. Oh my goodness. So yes, the FBI worked long and hard, I'm sure. And then they had to wait for a new DA to get elected. And you're welcome, K9. Hi, Michelle. I don't understand what you're saying. But yes, so she will be the next one that's on trial. You gotta wonder, why did they give Wendi immunity? In my opinion, I don't think she's helped the case, right? So they're probably kicking themselves for giving her immunity. If she pled the fifth, during her depositions, she's on the stand and she's not really giving any information, right? So I don't know. It's kind of scary. The old DA didn't want to prosecute. Aha, that makes sense. Huh. Wow. Not good. You know, they're getting convictions left and right. They've got 4 people convicted already. Donna's coming up. You know, what'll be a shame is if Wendi was the mastermind. I don't know if she was or if she wasn't. I don't know. Charlie's lawyer was a bad boy. Now Donna has lawyer issues. Oh. Well, they wouldn't have arrested her if they didn't have enough to convict. I think those phone calls, all of it, you know, was pretty damning evidence. So, you know, I'd be surprised if she got off, but we don't know. We don't know all the evidence yet. But what'll really be sad is if Wendi is involved, you know, those boys, right? That's the worst thing. They've already lost their dad. You know, Wendi should be punished if she was involved, in my opinion. Well, you know, here's the thing. Did he look shocked when she was arrested? He gives her a kiss goodbye. I mean, you know, I guess what are they going to get him for? Conspiracy. Wasn't it his money that helped pay for it? I mean, I don't know. It was a case with lots of drama and twists and turns. Yeah. Lots of drama. But drama in the sense that it was the case. Not drama in the sense of like Sebastian Rogers drama. Thank goodness. That kind of drama we can handle with the case, right? But yeah, no, I mean, Harvey wasn't surprised at all, right? And, concerned with getting her jewelry so it's not left at the jail, right? I don't know. I mean, it was just crazy. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. Donna's trial is going to be interesting for sure. Really be interesting. All right, so I'm going to leave you today with our grannyism. Good judgment comes from experience, and a lot of that comes from bad judgment. Right. I think that Donna Adelson's experience was pretty lacking because she made bad judgments one after another, right? Or she wouldn't be sitting in jail right now. And ironically, that quote is by Will Rogers, of all people. It's kind of funny, isn't it? Because Dan was a lawyer. Yes, and he was let me see. His focus was on the role of punishment in the criminal justice system. And so, yeah, I mean, ironic if you think about it. His role was on punishment in the criminal justice system, and look at what's happened in his case. Yeah. And it seems like lately that's all it's about kids lately, right? It's like, look at Suzanne Simpson. Her daughter was 5 years old. I think she was an oopsie child because the others were older. The next oldest one was 15, and the other ones were 19, 20. But children left behind. Their dad is in jail. Can't find Suzanne's body. I mean, there's children that are always hurt by these things. Yeah. Yeah, Catherine McManawaz. Charlie have kids? I didn't know that. I didn't think he was married. I knew Catherine and Sigfredo had children. Charlie's boy was 5 years old. Okay, so he didn't marry his baby mama? That's sad. But at least tell me that Catherine McManawaz wasn't right. But please tell me that Catherine McManawaz wasn't his baby mama. Because hopefully his mother is still with him, Charlie's little boy. Yeah. He had a dog too. Gotcha. The plot thickens. Charlie had a relationship with Wendy's nanny. And was that the mother of his son? Well, it wasn't Catherine McManawaz. That's good. So the mother of his son has his son. But they booted her out of the house. Oh my goodness. It is drama. It is drama, you guys. Oh my goodness. I learned more about this case tonight than I have in the weeks that I've been reporting on it. Oh my gosh. Oh, that's crazy. A lot of bad judgment in this case. Oh, wow. Oh, goodness. All right. Well, I'm going to leave it there, you guys. Thank you for teaching me about this case. Oh, so yeah, and I will keep you guys updated on anything that I hear that's relevant to Sebastian Rogers' case that isn't garbage drama out there. I promise you, because I think about him every day. I make a post for him every day. It isn't, it's just that it's not really anything to talk about right now. That's worth talking about. Hoping and praying that I did see a post by Nick today that he's very tired, but they're pushing forward. And so hopefully they're getting somewhere, and that's all we can pray for, right? Just pray that. I think there's a lot going on behind the scenes with the RICO trial and all that other stuff. And I think that it's going to be interesting to see where everything lands in that case. But anyway, thank you guys for your time. Thank you for everybody that's going to watch this on the replay. I appreciate each and every one of you so, so, so much. Thank you guys. You have a good night. Thank you for watching another episode of Granny's Crime Busters. We really appreciate each and every one of you. Don't forget to subscribe and like and even share the content. You can follow us on any of our other social media platforms at YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We really appreciate you guys, and you can also email us at granny'scrimebusters@gmail.com. Thank you so much, and we will see you on the next one. Thanks, guys.